Well, everyone, it's that time of the year again. The leaves are changing colors, the temperature is getting colder, and I have to wear a sweater outside now. Look, I'm a summer baby, but I don't mind the cold every now and then. But honestly, I love watching the seasons cycle through just cuz I love nature so much. So, autumn is my favorite season of the month. Just because the leaves changing color just brings me such happiness, especially since most of them go to my favorite color, which is orange. I just love nature. But yeah, the leaves are falling, and that means winter is coming soon, which means snow is coming soon, and the whole cycle repeats itself again. And a new year is coming. And what happens after the new year? Spring, and then summer, and then fall, and then winter. Crazy how those seasons work, right? It's crazy. But that's how the world is. That's how nature is. That's how New England is. I know it's not like that in Florida. In Florida, it's always hot. But here in Rhode Island, we go through all four seasons, and we're currently in November, which means it is autumn time. And I love autumn. Just gonna introduce myself. Hi, my name is Jessica. If you've never seen this before, this is the Poster Podcast. This is my special podcast on my YouTube channel, which I love so much. In every episode, I always start with a little life update. So, life update, school, college, work, finals are coming up soon. I have so much homework to get done. It's actually crazy. But little do y'all know, I'm actually working on a homework assignment right now. You might be thinking, Jess, what are you talking about? You're talking into a microphone looking at a computer screen right now. This is the assignment, guys. So for one of my classes, Rhetoric and Comp 2, I was able to do a research paper on any topic that I wanted to choose. And me being me, I love the environment, and I'm very big on environmental purposes, I don't know the word for it. I'm big on the environment. Mother Nature, me and Mother Nature, we're friends. We're good friends. There is nothing more calming to me than going to a park and sitting in some grass. There's nothing better than going to the beach and enjoying a nice day outside. For me, nature is what helps me get through life. When it comes to me and my personal problems and my mental health and all of that, I have found that one of the top things that helps me out the most, especially when I'm having a depressive episode or I'm feeling really anxious, is literally just going outside. Sometimes it's a little bit easier said than done. Sometimes I'm not able to do that. But honestly, there is nothing that I love more than being outside. It truly just makes me feel so happy, and getting my vitamin D, good for you. Go outside. I just love being outside. And so with this topic for this research paper, I wanted to research something that I haven't researched before. Usually when I'm given the opportunity to choose what I want to do for, say, a video project or a research paper, it usually has something to do with the environment. In the past, I have done a documentary on global warming. I've done a research paper on greenwashing. But this topic, I feel like, is really important to talk about, especially being a college student, and I think it's important for high schoolers to listen to, because I'm going to be talking about the environmental impact that generative AI has caused. So, the environmental impact of generative AI. If you don't know what generative AI is a form of artificial intelligence that can currently produce high quality text, images, videos, audio, synthetic data in seconds. This is a new form of well, not really new, but more upcoming as of 2022, that the public has really been just grabbing at. I feel like I keep seeing trends of like social media apps like Instagram and TikTok incorporating AI into their apps. It's all around us, especially if you're a student right now. One of the biggest things as a student is ChatGPT. Everyone knows what ChatGPT is. I feel like almost everyone uses ChatGPT or even like Snapchat AI. But there are environmental impacts in using generative AI, and this is something that I've been wanting to do research on for a while now. And I'm very glad that I got the opportunity to research this topic, and yeah. So in terms of my research, there is multiple ways in which I conducted it. I started by using my university's library database, in which I found 2 scholarly sources that talked about the multiple contributors of generative AI and their impact on the environment, and it also talked about possible sustainable actions in which we can take. And then from there, I used Google's database to find more articles. I looked into the history of generative AI. I looked into how it contributes to climate change, the benefits of generative AI, and the companies that produce it. All of the articles that I used for my research were published within the past 5 years. So this is all recent research that has been published by news outlets and universities such as Penn State. I've also used research from MIT. So, I've put some work into it. Anyways, you're probably thinking, why should I care? Why is this important? Why can't I just use ChatGPT for all my assignments and that be that? Why do teachers have to go crazy on this? Why do you care? Why do I care? Why does it matter that we are aware of the environmental impact? Well, people, we're in a climate crisis. If you haven't read the news as of recently, we are in a climate crisis. And if you don't know how generative AI works, generative AI, the models that are trained and generate this artificial intelligence, they're all held within these data centers or factories. You can use those terms interchangeably, I believe. And so the processors that, again, train and generate this technology produces a lot of heat. And that heat turns into carbon emissions that are brought out through the top of these data centers. The smoke that you see coming out of factories, that's carbon emissions. And that is what is contributing to global warming. As well as they also have cooling towers that are connected within these facilities. Carbon emissions is one of the biggest contributors to global warming. It is one of the biggest reasons on why the temperatures are getting warmer and we are having these issues, such as the coral reef dying. Contributors like that. But there are so many other factors that go into generative AI that affects the environment. One of them being the demand for these data centers. Currently, there is 11,800 data centers in the world. In the years of 2025 to 2030, they want to double that. In the US alone, we have 5,400 data centers in this country. If we are to double that, that would call for more energy consumption. If you don't know anything about the energy consumption of these data centers, the demand for energy and electricity for the data centers that help run generative AI is one of the major factors contributing to the environmental impacts of generative AI. When I was doing my research, I found this article published in the Science News Journal, and Lauren Leffer writes, all told, training a single model uses more energy than 100 US homes in a year. She also says that ChatGPT uses about 10 times as much energy as a standard online search. So, if you compare a search that you do on Google compared to a search that you do on ChatGPT, ChatGPT uses 10 times as much energy as a regular online search. Composing an email with an AI chat box can take 7 times as much energy as fully charging an iPhone 16. So what does this all mean? These generative AI machines that they are training consumes so much energy, and when we are to double the amount of data centers that produce and train this technology, it is going to put enormous strain on power grids. Since the electricity demand for these models are so high, it has increased the carbon emission output. In 2023, it was noted that Google alone increased their gas emissions by 48% since 2019. 48%. Google, a company that has pledged to bring their carbon footprint to zero. From 2019 to 2023, their gas emissions increased by 48%. Google, who has now incorporated AI into their Google searches, but they're not the only company. It is also Microsoft has also increased their emissions as well. Since 2020, due to construction of more data centers, their emissions have increased by 29%. Microsoft is another company in which they said they want to have no carbon use. I think they specifically said by 2030. They want to have no carbon use. Yet, their emissions have increased by 29%. This is not good. This is not good. The energy use is not good. Another factor that goes into the use of generative AI is water consumption. Water consumption is one factor that I would say is overlooked a lot. I feel like people don't really know about the water consumption when it comes to AI, because when you think of a computer, you don't think water is adding onto it. So you're probably thinking, what does water have to do with any of this? Since these data centers are producing heat, cooling towers and chilled water are used to disperse the heat. The water is used to absorb the heat from the equipment. I have a quote that says, "It has been estimated that for each kilowatt hour of energy a data center consumes, it would need 2 liters of water for cooling." 2 liters. When each model is being trained, it has individual cooling demands. Clean water is exclusively used for these machineries, for this technology, so they can avoid bacteria growth and keep the pipes clean. But the demand for water for these factories is only going to increase over time. We are currently in a climate where water, specifically clean water, is scarce for poorer communities due to many factors. If you look at the average American's data water usage, it estimates around 384 liters. By 2027, the global demand for AI is estimated to account for 30 to 40 million people's yearly water consumption. Yearly. 30 to 47 million by 2027. So while poorer communities are fighting just to get clean water, generative AI data centers are using all of this clean water just to produce and train the technology that you are using for your college essay that you didn't write. Now, you might be thinking, I don't use ChatGPT to write my essays, and I don't use Snapchat AI to solve my math equations. I use it as a tool to help me with my annotated bibliography or help me figure out formulas and such. And I do agree that websites like ChatGPT can be used as a tool, and it has been shown before that it helps doctors and it helps teachers and it can help filmmakers. ChatGPT can help with everything. Generative AI can help with literally anything. It can produce anything you want it to. But when we are in a climate like we are in right now, we cannot afford to ignore these things. We cannot afford to ignore the environmental impacts of things like generative AI. We can't ignore the contributors of global warming, and that is what generative AI is. It is a contributor to global warming, and the companies that train and produce these models are contributing to global warming via their gas emissions, their energy consumption, and their water usage. All of these things are contributors to global warming. So what can we do? What can we possibly do about it? Because that is a constant feeling that I get stuck with when I see bad things on the news. What can I do about it? What can be done? Well, there are sustainable measures that can be reached, such as calling your representatives, your state representatives, and telling them that there should be policies in place that the companies that produce generative AI technology need to release their data and their sustainability measures, because currently there are no policies in place that these companies have to release any data to us or any sustainable measures. So if there even is sustainable measures that they are reaching, they're not releasing that information. Why does the public not know? What are they doing behind the scenes? A little weird. But if you use your voice to call your representative, that is something that we can all do to help make generative AI a more sustainable thing to use, because it's not going away. Generative AI, this technology, is not going away. It is only going to increase because of interest from consumers. It is only going to double in usage. It's going to be the big thing in this world is AI and generative AI. It's going to be big. It's only going to be increased in usage. These are the little things that we can do to make it more sustainable and better for our Earth. There are other things that can be done, such as using renewable energy. Currently, generative AI is using the same electricity that I'm using to charge my MacBook right now. It is using the same electricity that is using to power my lamp right now, to power that lamp back there, to turn on the TV in my living room. It is using that energy. If it were to use renewable energy, which if you don't know what renewable energy is, did you ever get those people that would walk up to your front door and ask you if you wanted to buy solar panels? Solar panels are one of the renewable energies because it's coming from the sun. So that's straight nature happening. It's not stuff that you get from a coal mine like electricity is. It is straight Mother Nature. That is one significant and positive difference that can be made. But not only by using solar energy, but by using wind, by using hydropower, or geothermal energy. There are so many different renewable energy that can be used in place of electricity that is they're using now. Because like I said before, they're using a lot of energy. What else can be done? What else can we use? What else can we do? Well, there is other cooling methods that they can use. Instead of mass consuming all of the clean water that we currently are using and making these poor communities that don't have clean water struggle even more, there is a new cooling method that they actually have been installing into these servers and into the data centers that they're using to cool down the technology, the machines. Sorry, I don't know why I was struggling with the words. Traditional air conditioner, they can't keep the models cool enough. Just a regular AC. And they also use water mist in with those ACs. It cannot keep those heat. It can't keep it cool. So they're processing all of these things. It is producing so much heat, and the cooling methods that they are using right now is not keeping it cool enough, which means more water usage. But they have started testing out this special fluid engineered to boil 90 degrees lower than water's boiling point to cool computer processors. So this new liquid immersion cooling thing that they're using has already been noted to reducing a server's consumption by 5 to 15%, which would make it more energy efficient than an air conditioner. That is another way in which they can be more sustainable. By doing those three things, what we can do as regular citizens is calling our representatives and telling them why this is important. Why is it important? This is the one Earth that we get. This is our home. This is where we will meet new friends, grow our families, bring up new pets, live our lives. I'm only 20 years old. I have so much of my life left to live. But if we ignore these contributors and just pretend like everything is okay, what is our future going to look like? Because like I said before, we can't just up and leave. This is the one shot we get. And if we ignore the fact that our Earth is being affected by us human beings, it's only going to be worse. The coral reefs are already dying, and that's one of the biggest indicators that global warming is getting bad. We cannot afford to ignore any other contributor to global warming, and right now, generative AI is a big one. It is up and coming. It is only going to increase usage over the years. By 2030, they want to double the data centers. If we don't start demanding more sustainable measures now, what is our future going to look like? Because I know when I graduate college, I don't want to have to worry about these things. But I am, because that's just how the world works. But there are things that we can do. And by using our voice and talking about these things is so important to just talk about it. And that's why I wanted to make this podcast, to just inform people and bring awareness. I'm never going to shame you for using, I might shame you a little bit for using ChatGPT. I might shame you a little bit. But if we spread awareness of these things, it could be so much more helpful. So, in my personal opinion, stop using ChatGPT, stop using Snapchat AI, don't use Amazon's Rufus, stop using these AI technologies. And if you're going to use them as a tool, not as a source of everything. Use them as a tool That is what they were made for. It was made to be used as a tool, not to do your homework for you. But that's all I have to say. It is so important to use your voice, and with me having this podcast, I think it's important to talk about these things, especially when it's about something that is so important to me, which is nature. Being able to look outside and seeing the leaves change color brings me a happiness that I do not get every single day. Being able to watch flowers grow in my local park makes me feel calm. It calms my anxiety. It makes me feel grounded, which I feel is ironic because I'm literally grounded in nature. But it's important. If you love this earth, you love being here, use your voice. Use research. You do your own research and spread your findings. It's so important to do that, especially in the climate that we are in now. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you next time. Bye!